Every spring, homeowners are urged to wage a billion-dollar chemical war on Taraxacum officinale, a plant the Amish quietly harvest as a supercrop while you poison it as a weed. The untold truth is this: the dandelion's deep taproot breaks up hardpan soils, its leaves crush spinach for vitamins, and its roots and flowers fuel everything from prebiotic gut repair to folk medicine. But this plant cannot be patented, so chemical giants labeled it a pest and profited while lawns turned biologically dead. What if everything you have learned about a perfect lawn is propaganda, crafted to keep you dependent on their products, while the ultimate dietary rebellion grows for free beneath your feet? The real story begins with the original propaganda about the weed. $12.5 billion. That is the price tag the chemical industry puts on your front yard every single year. The war on so-called weeds is not a side business, it is the main event. Over 500 million pounds of herbicides are unloaded onto American lawns every year, all in the name of a perfect, lifeless green carpet. That is not a typo. 500 million pounds, enough to cover every suburban plot from coast to coast in a haze of chemical dust, year after year. This is not about aesthetics, it is about profit. Market reports from 2023 show a global lawn chemical industry ballooning toward $19 billion by the end of this decade, with United States households alone shelling out over $100 billion on lawn care products and services. Every bag of weed and feed, every jug of broadleaf killer, is a dividend check for chemical giants, while the plant they target, Taraxacum officinale, grows for free and asks nothing from you but a patch of dirt. The propaganda machine behind this chemical war is no accident. Scanning the archives of mid-century trade journals, a pattern emerges: ad agencies plotting to turn the dandelion into public enemy number one. Internal memos from the 1950s spell it out. Dandelion is not just a weed, it is the flagship invader. One agency memo dated 1958 lays it bare. Promote the broadleaf menace. Connect weed-free lawns to civic pride. Modernity, they wrote, meant a monoculture, one species, one color, no room for wildness or diversity, and certainly no room for a plant that cannot be patented, packaged, or controlled. The result? A billion-dollar war waged on a pioneer species that once fed settlers, healed the sick, and rebuilt battered soil. Homeowners are conditioned to see a dandelion as a threat, not a resource. Social pressure does the rest. Homeowners association notices, neighborly side-eye, the constant hum of shame for anyone who lets a single yellow flower break the green monotony. But behind this campaign lies a simple motive. As long as you believe dandelion is a problem, you will keep paying for the solution. The only thing standing between you and food independence is a marketing strategy, and the next chapter in this story exposes how deep that conditioning goes. A single yellow flower in your grass can cost you real money. Just ask Laura Smith, a homeowner in Ohio whose refusal to spray her dandelion patch landed her a fine of $1,200 from her neighborhood association. The charge was violating the weed-free clause, a homeowners association rule written to enforce a vision of order that leaves no room for wildness, let alone a pioneer species like Taraxacum officinale. Smith's protest, citing food security and soil regeneration, was brushed aside. In the eyes of her homeowners association, the dandelion's taproot was not breaking hardpan or pulling minerals from the subsoil, it was breaking the rules, threatening property values, and challenging the chemical status quo. Her case is not unique. Across the country, millions live under the threat of similar penalties, fines, warnings, even lawsuits if they let a single dandelion bloom. Community bylaws, drafted in the language of conformity, treat the dandelion as an invader, not a heritage crop. But the contradiction runs deeper than modern bylaws. The same plant, now targeted for extermination, was once a prized import. Colonial records from the late 1600s show dandelion already well established in New England gardens. European settlers, driven by necessity, brought Taraxacum officinale across the Atlantic for its reliability as both food and medicine. They valued its early greens to bridge the hunger gap, its roots for liver tonics, its flowers for wine. By 1672, dandelion had naturalized across the colonies, thriving in the disturbed soils of new settlements, prized for the very resilience that now gets it condemned. This is the cultural amnesia engineered by the billion-dollar chemical war. The plant you're told to fear, to poison, to banish from your yard is the same one that helped your ancestors survive. The propaganda of the weed flips history on its head. What was once a cornerstone of colonial self-sufficiency is now a legal liability. The penalty for defiance is not just a fine, it is the erasure of a living link to food independence, soil health, and botanical heritage. Yet the dandelion refuses to disappear. Each spring, it returns, unlicensed, uninvited, and unkillable, breaking through compacted turf, defying the rules, and reminding anyone willing to look that nature's pharmacy won't be legislated out of existence. The next chapter unfolds not in the courtroom or the boardroom, but in the field, where Taraxacum officinale continues its quiet rebellion, root first. March in Lancaster County means hunger. Not the kind solved by a trip to the grocery store, but the ancient, gnawing kind that comes when the root cellar runs bare and the fields are nothing but mud and memory. For the Miller elders, this is the season of the first greens harvest, a ritual that has outlasted every chemical fad, every corporate campaign to erase the old ways. Out in the chill dawn, hands wrapped in wool, they kneel in meadows where frost still rims the grass, searching for the earliest shoots of Taraxacum officinale. These are not the sprawling leaves of summer, but tight rosettes, no more than 2 or 3 inches tall, packed with the kind of bitter energy that signals survival. Baskets fill slowly, leaf by leaf, each one snapped off before the first flower dares to show. There is no waste here. Every stem, every root, every scrap of green is gathered with care. The Miller matriarch, 88 years old and still sharp as vinegar, calls it the bridge over the hunger gap, the difference between scraping by and thriving when winter stores run low. She remembers her own mother's hands, teaching her to spot the youngest leaves, tender enough to eat raw, yet strong enough to drive off scurvy and weakness after months of dried beans and potatoes. In the kitchen, the harvest is transformed. Young dandelion leaves become salad, dressed with apple cider vinegar and raw honey, a tonic so bracing it wakes the body from its winter sleep. Roots, scrubbed and roasted, are ground for coffee, a bitter, earthy brew that carried generations through lean years. Flowers, when they finally arrive, are set aside for wine and salve. Nothing is wasted. The zero-waste ethic is not a trend here. It is survival, born of necessity and respect for the land. No plastic, no packaging, no chemical residue, just food, medicine, and memory, pulled straight from the soil that the rest of America was taught to poison. The Miller family does not ask permission from corporations or chemical councils to gather what the earth offers for free. Their consent comes from the land itself, from the knowledge that every dandelion leaf is a vote against hunger, against dependence, against the billion-dollar chemical war raging just beyond the fence row. This is the lived reality of food independence, an act of quiet rebellion, rooted in tradition, carried basket by basket from field to table. Spinach sits on supermarket shelves wrapped in plastic, flown in from half a continent away. Dandelion greens, on the other hand, explode through the frostbitten ground for free, right outside your door. But which leaf actually delivers more? To answer that, Dr. Nina Patel, nutrition scientist with a PhD from Cornell, set up a blind taste and lab comparison that would never make it into a fertilizer commercial. Volunteers sat down to 2 salads, one a mound of baby spinach, the other a handful of raw dandelion rosettes picked before the first flower. Most reached for the spinach first, mild, familiar, safe. The dandelion greens were peppery, bitter, electric. Some winced, some smiled. Every single one felt it, a jolt that wakes up the tongue and the gut, a bitterness that signals the body to prepare for real nutrition, not empty calories. Then the numbers came in. The lab printout, stamped with Dr. Patel's signature, tells a story the chemical industry would rather you never see. per 100 grams, dandelion leaves pack 817 micrograms of vitamin K, nearly 70% more than spinach. Vitamin A, 9,940 international units, more than triple what you get from the so-called superfood in your fridge. Calcium, iron, magnesium, dandelion outperforms or matches spinach at every turn, except for potassium, where both score high. But here is the twist. Dandelion's potassium comes with a built-in safety net. Those bitter sesquiterpene lactones, what gives the leaf its edge, trigger a potassium-sparing diuretic effect. Instead of flushing minerals, your body holds on to what it needs while clearing out toxins. This is not a side effect, it is a survival mechanism, honed over centuries of folk medicine and now confirmed in peer-reviewed assays. Dr. Patel explains it simply: the bitterness is not a flaw, it is the delivery system. Those same lactones stimulate digestion, prime the liver, and reset the gut after a winter of starch and salt. The leaf matrix, dense with inulin, flavonoids like luteolin, and micronutrients, does what no bagged salad can. It retrains taste, repairs the microbiome, and bridges the hunger gap with a payload of vitamins that commercial crops cannot touch. The numbers do not lie. The propaganda of the weed collapses under the weight of actual nutrition. Dandelion is not just edible, it is superior. And as Dr. Patel's printout makes clear, the only thing standing between you and this free living multivitamin is the story you have been sold about what counts as food. Nothing about the dandelion's power starts above ground. The real engine sits beneath your feet, a taproot that drills down up to 30 centimeters, splitting hardpan and dragging minerals up from depths where shallow-rooted grass never reaches. In a world obsessed with sterile, chemical-fed lawns, this so-called weed is quietly mining phosphorus, potassium, and trace elements from the subsoil, then cycling them back to the surface. Field studies show that lawns colonized by Taraxacum officinale can test up to 15% higher in extractable phosphorus than their chemically treated neighbors. That is not folklore. It is the result of root exudates, microbial alliances, and a taproot designed by evolution to heal broken earth. Dr. Mara Henshaw, soil microbiome specialist, pulls a soil core from a dandelion patch and lays out the evidence. Her lab's ICPOES assays confirm what folk wisdom has always known. Where dandelions grow, the soil comes back to life. Earthworm counts rise, bulk density drops, and microbial respiration spikes. But the root is not just an ecological repair crew, it is a dietary goldmine. Each root stores 2 to 4 grams of inulin per 100 grams of fresh weight, a prebiotic carbohydrate that feeds gut bacteria and stabilizes blood sugar. In the hunger months of spring and fall, Amish families roast these roots for coffee, drawing on a tradition that carried Americans through World War II rationing and beyond. No patent, no packaging, no profit for chemical giants, just a free, living link between soil health and human health, right under your lawn. The root engine does not just challenge the propaganda of the weed, it buries it. A single dandelion flower holds more medicine than most pharmacy aisles. Peer-reviewed lab assays show Taraxacum officinale petals are loaded with luteolin, a flavonoid powerhouse clocking in at 45 milligrams per kilogram, nearly triple the content found in kale. Luteolin does not just scavenge free radicals, it is documented to dampen inflammation at the cellular level, protecting tissues from oxidative stress that underlies everything from aging to chronic disease. That is not a marketing claim. That is chemistry, confirmed in the lab and practiced for centuries. In Amish kitchens and Appalachian homesteads, dandelion flowers never go to waste. Each spring, families gather the golden heads, plucking only the freshest petals for a batch of dandelion wine. The process is as simple as it is ancient. Combine petals with water and wild honey, stir in lemon zest, then let the mixture ferment in a stone crock for 6 weeks. The result is a golden floral tonic rich in antioxidants. No artificial preservatives, no patent required. Every bottle is a celebration of abundance, not scarcity. Every sip is a direct challenge to the narrative that health must come from a factory. When the petals are gone, the medicine remains. Folk healers infuse dandelion flowers in olive oil, Then blend with beeswax and a touch of lavender to create a salve for aches, bruises, and burns. No synthetic analgesics, no corporate markup, just a low-tech remedy that works, passed hand to hand for generations. This is the floral pharmacy, free, unregulated, and impossible to monopolize. It is food sovereignty in a jar, and all it asks is that you stop treating your medicine as a weed. Megan R. Liao, patent attorney, lays out the one truth that chemical companies never put in their commercials. You cannot patent a wild plant. Under 35 U.S.C. Section 101, Taraxacum officinale, the dandelion, stands outside the reach of corporate ownership. It is a product of nature, genetically unmodified and unaltered, and therefore immune to the legal machinery that turns seeds into billion-dollar assets. No patent means no monopoly. No monopoly means no incentive to invest in promotion, research, or distribution. Instead, the only real money to be made is in erasing the plant itself. If the dandelion cannot be packaged, branded, or locked behind a paywall, then the only way to profit is to make you hate it, to turn it into a symbol of disorder, something to be eradicated, not embraced. This is why the herbicide industry pours its resources into marketing broadleaf killers and weed-free fantasies. Proprietary chemicals. Now that is a business model. Every new formulation, every slight tweak in the recipe is protected by patents and enforced by armies of lawyers. The dandelion, meanwhile, is left out of the conversation, erased from nutritional charts and medical textbooks, its benefits buried beneath layers of manufactured disgust. The campaign is not just about selling you a cleaner lawn. It is about selling you on the myth that anything beyond the reach of corporate control is worthless. As Liao puts it, the dandelion's greatest crime is that it cannot be owned, and so the billion-dollar chemical war marches on, fueled by the simple fact that nature's pharmacy is free, and that freedom is the one thing the industry cannot tolerate. Throw out everything you have been told about weeds. If you want to reclaim your lawn from the billion-dollar chemical war, you start with safety and stewardship, not chemicals and shame. The first rule is, never harvest from a sprayed lawn, ever. Herbicide residues like glyphosate and 2,4-D do not just disappear with rain or time. That is why Amish and off-grid foragers use test strips approved by the Environmental Protection Agency, the same kind sold for garden safety audits. Press the strip into damp soil or rub it along the leaf. If it changes color, walk away, no exceptions. That is your firewall against leftovers from the chemical industry. Once you have confirmed clean ground, the protocol is simple. Early morning is best, after the dew dries and the sun is just up. Snap off dandelion leaves when they are young and tight, before the first flower opens. For roots, use a garden fork, not a shovel. You want the taproot whole, not hacked. Loosen the soil down 15 to 20 centimeters. Lift and rinse the root under cold water. For flowers, take only the freshest, fully opened heads, with no wilting, no browning, and no insect damage. Every part you take, leave something behind. That is not just tradition. It is soil stewardship. Let a few roots and leaves decompose in place. They will feed earthworms, boost organic matter, and keep the taproot engine running for next year's harvest. This is not extraction. It is a closed loop: food, medicine, and soil health, all in one cycle, all outside the reach of corporate control. That is how you reclaim sovereignty, one dandelion at a time. You've been drafted into the billion-dollar chemical war. You were taught to poison Taraxacum officinale while chemical giants rake in profits. Yet this so-called weed outperforms spinach in vitamins, bridges the hunger gap, and offers inulin, sesquiterpene lactonase, and potassium-sparing diuretic action, free, unpatented, and indestructible. The real rebellion? Reclaiming your soil, your health, and your sovereignty, one dandelion at a time. Ready to stop waging war on your own food?